Hello, everybody. It is great to be here again today. And my name is Gary Fowler, and I am the CEO, president, and co founder of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AIM quantum venture studio located in Silicon Valley. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done 17 companies and been involved in 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for 1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company. Love artificial intelligence and quantum computing, but more important, making a dent in the universe. And with that, I've got the Superman of biotech, Shalabh Gupta. I mean, just an incredible background. He's one of the first persons that I've ever met that has such a wide and interesting background in biotech. He's a physician by training and background, found his passion in bringing new technologies to market, ultimately to help patients, physicians, and society to make his dent in the universe. So, with that, his new company that he started is called Uniceve Therapeutics. It's located in San Francisco, California. It's got an office in Palo Alto. He's on the NASDAQ as of July 2021. And so with Uniceve, I'd like to bring Shalabh on board. So, Shalabh. Hey, Shalabh, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Gary. Thank you for having me.
So I got a question for you. How in the world did you wake up one day? I know that, you're a physician and, did you wake up one day and say, I want to start doing, I want to be an entrepreneur? Was it like, did you have one visionary experience, or were you, as a kid, were you selling things as a kid and then just decided later as a physician it was a little boring and you wanted to try something else? What happened?
So we all have an aha moment. For me, it wasn't one aha moment. Um, Growing up, I wanted to be a part of a person who's focused on sciences, especially in life sciences. My dad is a physician, and as most kids do, they want to be a little bit like their role model. So, growing up, I wanted to be a physician. I became a physician. While I was doing my training, I realized that as a physician, what I do affects a small group of patients, small number of people. Can I take that idea? Can I have a broader impact? And to me, entrepreneurship is one of those things that gives you an opportunity to serve bigger cause, more people, more part of humanity.
Well, that's amazing. And so if so you went down through it. I was reading through, by the way, your 6 page CV that's on LinkedIn. So you're a attending physician on one side and a clinical faculty at the same time. You're at UBS Bank. How did that work? Did you
So,
like doing
Gary,
events, or how was that?
so one of the things that most often people ask me is, so how did you do all of this? And I think you were asking the same question. How do you go about being a physician to starting your company and taking it to NASDAQ? I think life as it happens, these are ragged line where there is a line here, dot there, dot there. You connect these dots. Steve Jobs always talked about connecting the dot in retrospect. For me, the idea was that I had a life sciences background as a physician. um, I got a finance degree while I was in my training, and I have a master's in healthcare finance beyond medical degree. Somewhere around second year of my medical training, I realized that I wanted to do something with my life other than medicine, other than being a physician. The problem is that at that point, I had many, many degrees, but little or no experience. So it was in first or second year of my residency training, and I realized that I wanted to not practice medicine, but being a physician is also one of those careers that it takes years and years to go through medical training. You can't just walk out and quit. And an analogy I give people is like 18-wheeler truck. You cannot take sudden turns. So
Mhm.
I had that insight that look, if whatever I want to do, I got to find way to learn my experience. So during the daytime, I worked at the hospital, but there were times, and I was fortunate that there were laws that allow you to take after working for 24 hours, you get to go home. And I lived in New York City. I worked at NYU, so every time when I got a chance to do post call, I'll wake up in the morning, shave, get dressed, and go to talk to different biotech company CEOs. And living in New York, you also get exposed to financial services, which is investment banking and venture capital community. So the idea was very simple, that I wanted to be building a career other than physician, the execution was not easy because there's no one way to get to being outside medicine. So the first job I got was working as a medical director for a biotech company, and that job was purely by trying and getting many, many no's and not taking no for an answer. So when I would go to
So what
these
was your
biotech
pitch,
companies,
Shalabh? What was your pitch? How did you go into them? Let me tell you, this is what I do, but this is what I want to do. Or how did you pitch it?
the pitch was simple. I'm a physician by training. I have a lot of clinical publications. If you give me a chance, I can totally help you doing what you do. And more often than not, most people would like me to, to talk to me for 5 or 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Most conversations stop at 15, 20 minutes because when they said, well, have you worked in biotech before? And the always answer was no, but if you give me a chance, I can do it. And that is the challenge for most people. So those viewers who are watching this show, Gary, I think there is not the challenge that I face that if you give me a chance, I can work is what we all are looking for. Many times I get people from the Stanford and UCSF medical schools, they ask, so how do you break into something? The challenge is that breaking into anything, any career, any part of your life is always hardest thing to do. The one thing that I can say, resilience and persistence. If you are willing to take no for an not take no for an answer, you can make it through. So 10 or 12, 15, I lost count at some point. Many biotech company CEOs said, well, Shalabh, we more often than not at that point, we are talking about 15 years ago, more often than not, this was a common feedback. Great background, kid. I really like that you go to NYU. But look, we are looking for somebody who has done this before. Until finally somebody said, well, you know what? Do you have your medical license? I said, yes, I got it just a few weeks ago from New York State medical license. They said, this might work. What we do is not super complicated. We are looking for a physician who can write this protocol and send it to FDA. So, and the person, the CEO gave me a break. He said, well, we can teach you some of the parts as we go through. And that was my entry into biotech.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah.
So,
Yes. So I got a question for you, Shalabh. Now, did you study a lot? Did you have to study a lot when you were in university? Or were you one of these guys that just went in and didn't open up the books and said, I know where the trigeminal nerves are. I know what this drug interaction is going to be. What was it like? Were you gifted in terms of that, or how did it work? Because you said you had a lot of education, but not a lot of experience.
That's harder part to say, Gary, because we all have certain skills. I really like medicine. I like what we do. So, one of the things that I was fortunate to do is to not be doing something that I didn't like doing. So if you like something, it's somebody who, there is a saying that if you want to go to Carnegie Hall, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? By playing 10,000 hours of music. So for me, learning medicine or learning about biotech was never a chore. I enjoyed doing it. The question was doing something you like doing and also learning to get better and better every single time. And that's the key. So I was fortunate to be able to hone my skill. The medical schools are where they're everywhere. They're competitive. Getting into residency is competitive. But one of the things that I realized is that if you step away from academic grades and realizing what you're good at, one thing was clear to me that I did not foresee myself to be working in a lab and doing those research because I enjoyed talking to people. As a physician, I got to see patients, and that's why when you asked me about how I worked at UBS while working as a physician, for me, working as a doctor was just a joy. I just didn't want to make a career or living out of it as a full-time person. So on weekend and holidays that nobody wanted to cover, I got to be a doctor. It was my joy.
So you would pick January 1, you were in there working. You were in there in those days. Nobody else wanted. Oh, and that's part of being an entrepreneur too. You got to do other things, do things that other people don't want, and that's how you learn to get to the next level, right? That helps.
Right. And early on in your career, you want to do more than one thing because that way you gain broader perspective. One thing, Gary, as you talk to the entrepreneurs and you pointed out your own background, which you reflected, you did not do one thing in order to become Gary Fowler you are today. You did more than one thing, and sometimes things didn't make sense. But the broader the experience, the more types of experiences you have, because it's only later in your life that you can reflect back and say, well, I did this 2 years of training. Or so for me, I joined a biotech company as a medical director, working with them as a consultant. More often than not, most physicians in places where I was trained in New York did moonlighting. That was my moonlighting, as in working extra. But what was the
You never
greatest
said
thing?
that to the other doctors, though, did you?
Pardon me?
When you had the other doctors there, did you say, "Listen, this is just my other job. I'm really, I'm an investor and a private equity guy." What did you tell them? Did you tell them what you
No,
really did?
most I was resident, but then I was a chief resident. So people knew that I didn't want to practice medicine, but that gave me the strength to not get caught into the dogma, because medicine, like many professions, once you become a physician, it's very hard to quit, because it takes a decade plus to get trained as a physician. So what I was able to do, because there was a visibility and clarity in my mind that this is what I wanted to do, I told my department that I don't want to practice medicine, but they liked me very much. I like practicing medicine. I said, I'll be happy to help you.
I don't
And
want to practice medicine, but I'd like practice of medicine.
I don't like practicing medicine as a full-time career, as
I
a
see.
being in a
You like it.
full-time position. Yeah.
So if it's a part-time job, I'm okay with it, right?
That's right. Yeah. And
That's
because
good.
I was a chief resident, I got an offer to stay as a faculty in third year of my training. And what I did is that I picked up a role, as you said, Kerry, that most physicians, if they are practicing medicine, they don't want to do part time. They either practice or don't practice. But I was able to find a balance in which I was able to cover a hospital, a couple of different physicians' practices on the weekend and holidays when they need a physician. But at the same time, I was not in, for lack of a better word, I was not a competitor to them, because I didn't want to practice. So I see the patients; they have a continuity of
So
care.
they didn't mind you coming in and seeing their patients because they didn't want you. They didn't think you would steal them, right? Or they
That's
would.
right. That's right. Yeah.
Is that a big deal with doctors? Do they think about those kind of things, Shalabh?
It depends, Gary, what type of practice you are in.
Hmm.
In a private practice setting, it's not that physicians think they are stealing somebody's patient, but in a private practice setting, if you are a cardiologist and you practice in Manhattan, and if you have 100 patients, let's say for a variety of reasons, you want to grow your practice to have 200 patients. There are only ways to get it. Either you have more patients or you get somebody else's patients. So that's a challenge. Most physicians are not interested in worrying about getting more patients. But in a private practice setting, the way this works is that if I'm coming as a new practitioner in that very small geography, um, whether somebody believes it or not, there is some sort of a competitive situation. However, in my case, this was very clear. The Shalabh is not looking to practice medicine. So on the weekend, I was a Dr. Gupta. On weekdays, I worked whatever else I wanted to work. And because I was trained there, I taught medical students, I taught residents, and I taught fellows. And the great thing is that it would be one thing if it was a work for me. It was a joy. It was joy to be a physician and see patients, help them. And since I wasn't doing it full time, I also didn't have that challenge, that feeling this is the only thing I do. So it worked for a while. I was initially joined a venture capital fund, then went to work as an analyst on Wall Street that covered biotech companies, and then covered pharma companies. I worked for UBS Investment Bank, as you pointed out. Um, and UBS, the challenge was again not to compromise in what you do full time. So some days were harder than others. Some days it used to be that weekdays, Monday through Friday, I worked at a stock analyst, and Friday to next Friday, I'm working as a physician because, as you know, Christmas and New Year, nobody wants to cover a hospital or people are on vacation. But it worked. It worked, and it gave me a very broad perspective. It also gave me an understanding that if I say to somebody that this is the type of drug a physician will not prescribe, I can understand because I'm a physician. I have fellow physicians, and NYU is a university hospital, a tertiary care center. So it broadened my horizon in terms of understanding. And the one key theme throughout my career was, Gary, that I realized that bringing new technologies to market is not a small endeavor. There is not one degree that you can get. It's not a finance degree, it's not a medical degree. You need to have a broad background. So working with the biotech, working on Wall Street, and then moving to California, working for Genentech as in the strategy group, it gave me all those background building blocks.
Wow, it's amazing. I got a question for you. What are these new doctors, these concierge doctors? What's that all about? Because I'm starting to hear more about it. What is the deal with them? Are there these doctors that have these limited practices? Is that something that is trying to address the market in a different way? It's interesting. We're starting to see a lot of those in Florida, for instance, and in
Sure.
California. What is
So
that? Is
Gary,
it
one
are
of
they
the
highly
challenges for
qualified? Are they highly qualified doctors, or what kind of doctors are they in general? Do you know?
so um, the, the practice of medicine, part of the challenge that we face in the United States as a physician is that most physicians go into medicine because they want to serve patients. But a majority of our work, no matter what you do, which practice you are, majority of our work goes on in dealing with insurance companies. You do paperwork, you have to get the insurance approval. A concierge medicine is more simplified. There is more to it, Gary. But the idea is that if you're a patient and you say, "Well, I don't mind," it's like going in economy class versus business class. Business class, the plane is same. You're not getting there faster. You see, like if you take an economy class, business class ticket, you're still getting to the same destination, except that you get a little bit of luxury of having more leg room. Maybe you have
I
a bit
see.
more
Okay.
space to. So same idea that physicians are doing the same thing that they would do otherwise, except that now you have an access to a physician, and the physician, what they get in return is that they don't have to, spend 50% or 60% of their time in paperwork. That part is taken care of. And
Is
there
the
are some
quality, is
evolution
the
of that.
quality of care any different when you have those concierge
I
physicians?
don't think so. I don't think so. And I can't comment on every single concierge practice throughout the country. But I think, as I've said to you, most physicians, most because there are some anomalies in every profession, most physicians go into business of medicine or practice of medicine because they truly, truly want to serve patients. They
Got it.
want to make their life better.
Well, I appreciate that. Okay, so I want to talk about, you just did an IPO. So what was that journey like? So you started in 2016, Uniceve Therapeutics, you did an IPO, you founded the company from scratch. How was it going through that process?
So two things happen that help in your career. In the beginning of your career, you have naivety, and you have a lot of joy. I think if I go back, this was my third company. I had started first company to end of 2010, beginning of 2011. So I've been doing this for some time, and two things happen. One is you get better because you do the same thing. You don't want to make the same mistakes. And the second thing is that by not only getting better, by having a track record, you get better types of opportunities, both in terms of getting the attention from investors, but also as an entrepreneur, what I have done is that I've taken drugs and technologies from other places where they were sitting or they could not have grown from point A to point B, and being able to bring them into a company and scale them up. No different than any other scenario. If you take an example for a company like Tesla, technology for Tesla or the company itself existed before somebody like Elon Musk came into the core. But I'm not comparing ourselves to Tesla. But the idea is that you take a technology that has a potential and do your very best with a small team with limited resources. And resources are limited no matter what you do, because if you're a startup, you're always constrained against time and money. There's never enough time, there's never enough money, no matter how many millions of dollars you raise. So you're always trying to optimize time and money, but also focus on execution.
Yeah, so you go down through that, and so the beginning of the process, did you raise money for that company? Was it money? Did you bootstrap it, or how did you fund your company? And then,
So Uniceve was started essentially in 2018. I had founded a company, I formed a company, and initially the technology, I was very focused on a therapeutic area, which is nephrology or kidney diseases. Only because over the course of decade or so, I realized in oncology or cancer treatment, there are lots and lots of companies that are pursuing it. So we wanted to be in a place where there was a small company can make a dent. And sometimes, as you know, I've given this analogy to a lot of people. If everybody's going in the same highway, no matter what car you can drive Ferrari or you can drive a Honda, you are limited by the traffic that you have encountered. My goal was to find an area where there were not that many companies, but also there was a very, very big unmet need. So nephrology became that area. Nephrology simply means the patients who have kidney problems.
Mhm.
And what I found that there was a drug that was available at a public company that was sitting on the shelf, not because there was something wrong with the drug, but the company had shifted their focus into oncology, and they're very good companies. So what we were able to do is, so I was able to get their drug, acquired their drug, and once I acquired the drug, I was able to get nephrologists who are ultimately the customer, if you will, because they are the one who are prescribing these medicines. You get their buy-in, and when people started hearing about that, they said, "We want to invest." So that's how I did it. This was the third company, so there was a. I don't want to oversimplify, but I will say there was a track record from the previous companies,
Was it
and the
easier
whole
to
idea.
was it easier to raise money, Shalabh? So going through this time, how much easier was it?
Um, there were two parts. One was, as I keep saying, is a prior track record. The second part was that I also realized certain endeavors, and again, this is people say the school of hard knocks. Certain endeavors don't really lead to a great outcome. So instead of spending time with the so-called angel groups, I went directly to physicians. So it was easier from that regard. But raising money, Gary, and trying to build a company from scratch is always hard. You do it because you're passionate about it and you're willing to work every single day of the year, Monday through Friday, and then Friday through next Friday, and then it's a no non-stop. So I really believed in it. And the more I talk with the doctors who are prescribing these medicine to kidney patients and nephrologists, the more they talk to me, it like fires your passion even more that you can make a difference. So that helped a lot. It was relatively easier compared to the first company, but it was still it's still a lot of work to spend time in building a company.
And how was it? So did you ring the bell on Nasdaq? Did you go up to ring the bell?
So we are scheduled sometime beginning of first quarter of next year. Because of COVID, and my one other goal was that once we had the money, was to build the right team. I talk a lot about the team, and one of the things that inspires me in Silicon Valley, and one of the things that I will keep saying it over and over again, the companies are not it's a bunch of money and bunch of drugs or technology. It requires a soul. The soul of the company is built by people,
Mm.
and the same people can build a company to be extremely successful, or if it is a dysfunctional company management, then they can destroy the value. So the goal was to build a team. So I was so focused that I did not go to ring the bell. I have been talking to NASDAQ. We will go. I want to give a chance to my investors and my team to go to NASDAQ and ring the bell. So we're going to do it in
That's
sometime in
great.
2022.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. You like I said, you got a amazing background. So what's UCF's F Innovation Ventures? You just started that recently too. What's that all about?
So I am serving in a role in advisory capacity. You see a lot of academic institutions throughout the US. They have great researchers, great technologies. These technologies can use some input from someone like me. It doesn't have to be me, but it could be someone like me, somebody who has a technology background, but also a understanding. But what will it take for that technology to be reduced into an actual product? So UCSF is one, Stanford is another one. These institutions are they have some of the best faculty in the world, best minds. Some of these technologies, they have an idea that can be again built into a drug or a device or healthcare app or some sort of a technology app that helps patients, physicians. The idea is to be able to help some of these scientists in terms of giving them a feedback, not just to say this is good or this is bad. That's not what you're looking for, but help them navigate. So, what will it take for this technology to turn into an actual product? You see, when you think about a product on a commercial world, this is not the technology. Some technologies, as an example, internet wasn't in a for-profit setting. It was, developed and built upon Department of Defense. But as you see today, internet opened up the doors for people to build up these IT companies, and information technology has changed the way we live. But the innovation was done at a government-funded setting. Similarly, UCSF has funding from government, various grants, some private donors. As somebody who is doing a research, for example, let's say they are developing a technology for kidney patients. That technology from UCSF in an ideal setting comes to a company like us, and then hopefully either goes to another commercial partner or goes to the market. That conduit has to work. And the more we can translate the technology, the more we help the society. And that's what we have done. That's what I've done. I've taken my first company, technology was out of USC in Southern California, Los Angeles, University of Southern California. But the idea is that I don't have we have drugs in our company in Uniceve, but as a way to help the rest of the folks out there in the local ecosystem, I'm an advisor both to Stanford as well as UCSF.
No, that's fantastic. Listen, we're coming out to this is a fascinating conversation. I really enjoy your company.
Thank you.
We're coming up to the top of the show. So closing comments and how do people reach you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Sure. There is one thing which I'll say to most entrepreneurs and the folks who are interested in starting companies. No matter what technology, no matter what domain you are pursuing it, try to develop a broad base, understand the different components of your industry, and then have a smaller niche in which you can develop and expand your expertise. So that'll be one part. And that, the other thing I'll say, if you're starting for the first time, the one thing that will help you tremendously is your passion. Passion helps you overcome obstacles. Passion helps you overcome failures. Passion helps you when you're competing against people who have a decade or 2 decades of experience. It's a passion. Passion does not mean exuberance. Just exuberance is just a belief that this is something I will do until the answer is until I succeed. And the second part of you asking the question is that I'm available on LinkedIn, Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Shalabh Gupta MD, and LinkedIn Shalabh Gupta MD. Also, if they want to reach out to me, it's my first last name .md at shalabhgupta.md@gmail.com.
No, that's great. Shalabh, you're an inspiration for us all. I appreciate taking time out of your busy schedule to get together with my audience. To my audience out there all over the world, thank you for joining us again today for GSD Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. And I'm the host, Gary Fowler. Stay tuned. We'll be back later this week with another exciting episode. Stay happy, stay healthy, and stay safe. Talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.